My mother shouted, "Don't bother coming to Thanksgiving, you don't fit in." So I canceled the $50,000 down payment I was giving her for her dream retirement home. Please take a moment to subscribe. It's a little thing that means a lot. And tell us in the comments where you're joining from. We'd love to connect. My name is Karen Anderson, and I'm about to tell you how I learned that blood doesn't make you family. The phone call came on a Tuesday afternoon in late September, right when I was closing a huge real estate deal at my office in downtown Atlanta. Mama's name flashed across my screen, and honestly, I hesitated. She'd been distant lately, especially since I'd started dating Patrick, my boyfriend of 8 months. He's a surgical resident at Emory, brilliant, kind, and completely undeserving of the cold shoulder my mother kept giving him. "Hey, Mama," I answered, stepping into the hallway for privacy. "Karen, we need to talk about Thanksgiving." Her voice had that sharp edge I'd learned to recognize over the years. My stomach tightened. "What about it? You know I'm coming. I'm bringing Patrick, and I've already planned the..." "That's exactly what I'm calling about. I don't want him here." The words hung between us like ice. I could hear the desperation in my own voice. "Mama, he's my boyfriend. Why wouldn't you want him here?" "Because he doesn't fit in with our family, Karen. He's just different. And frankly, I don't know what you see in him." My heart started pounding. "Different? Mama, he's an incredible person." "Look," she cut me off, "if you're bringing him, then don't bother coming at all. You've changed since you've been with him anyway. You don't listen anymore. You think you're better than us now with your fancy job and your fancy boyfriend." The line went quiet. I realized I was holding my breath. "Mama, that's not fair. That's my final word, Karen. You choose." Then she hung up. I stood in that hallway, phone still pressed to my ear, feeling something inside me crack. I had been planning to give her a check that very month. $50,000. My life savings. It was supposed to be a surprise for her retirement home, the one she'd been dreaming about for years. I'd overheard her talking to my aunt about it, and I decided out of pure love to make that dream real. But right now, standing in that hallway with my hands shaking, I realized I was about to make a very different kind of decision. To understand why Mama's rejection hit so deeply, you need to know who she is. Her name is Patricia Simone Anderson, and she raised me, my older brother Gary, and my younger sister Connie alone after our father left when I was 3 years old. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and doing hair during the day, to keep a roof over our heads in Southwest Atlanta. I watched her sacrifice everything. But here's the complicated part. Patricia had a way of loving that felt suffocating sometimes. He controlled everything. What we wore, who we talked to, which colleges we applied to. When Gary wanted to pursue music instead of going to college, she literally threw his saxophone out the window. I'm not exaggerating. He jumped out behind it and caught it before it hit the ground. We didn't speak about that day for 5 years. With me, she had different expectations. I was the golden child, the one who would make it and prove that her sacrifices meant something. When I got into Spelman College, she cried for an hour. When I graduated top of my class and landed a senior position at a commercial real estate firm, she threw a party. But something shifted after that. It was subtle at first. Comments about how I was getting too big for my britches, or how I wouldn't have anything without her. Lately, especially since Patrick, it had become worse. The truth is, I'd spent my entire life trying to earn her approval. I sent money every month. I called constantly. I came home for every holiday, every family dinner, every crisis. I even helped her get her real estate license because she mentioned wanting to transition out of hair. And I loved her fiercely even when it hurt. But I also remembered something else. Something she'd forgotten, apparently. I remembered teaching her how to use the internet so she could check her investment accounts. I remembered driving her to doctor's appointments when her blood pressure spiked. I remembered the countless nights I'd listened to her problems, her regrets, her pain. I'd been a good daughter. An excellent daughter if I'm being honest. So when she said those words, when she drew that line in the sand and told me to choose between her and the man I loved, something inside me shifted. For the first time in my life, I realized that no amount of money, no amount of sacrifice, no amount of love from my side was going to be enough for her. Patrick didn't actually find out about the phone call until I told him that evening at his apartment. He was cooking. He always cooked when he came home from the hospital, said it helped him decompress, and the kitchen smelled like garlic, fresh ginger, and hope. He took one look at my face and turned off the stove. What happened? He pulled me into his arms without hesitation. I stood there in the safety of his embrace and felt the tears I'd been holding back all day finally break free. I told him everything. The conversation, the rejection, and yes, even the part about the $50,000. I waited for him to feel guilty, to tell me to go ahead and bring him anyway to play the martyr role. Instead, he surprised me. I knew she didn't like me, he said quietly, guiding me to the couch. I've known for months. What? Why didn't you say anything? I felt a flash of something, hurt maybe, or betrayal. Because I could see what was happening, Karen. Your mother was using me as an excuse to maintain control over you. It wasn't really about me. It was never about me. And honestly, I didn't want to add to your stress by pointing it out. He sat down beside me, taking my hand. But I need you to hear something, and I need you to really listen. You don't owe her your entire life. You don't owe her your future. And you definitely don't owe her $50,000 if she's going to treat you like this. She's my mother, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, they felt weak. I know. And I'm not asking you to cut her off completely. But I am asking you to respect yourself enough to set boundaries. He squeezed my hand. Because here's what I see when I look at you, Karen Anderson. I see a brilliant, accomplished, beautiful woman who spent so long trying to be what everyone else needed that she forgot to ask herself what she actually wants. And I'm not going to let anyone, not even your mother, diminish that. You want me to cancel the money, don't you? I knew the answer before I asked. No. I want you to make that decision for yourself based on how she's treated you, not based on what I think or what you think she expects. That's the whole point. This is your life. Your money. Your choice. He was right, of course. But knowing that didn't make it any easier. I didn't make any decisions that night. Instead, I sat with it. The weight of it. The before and after of it. By Wednesday morning, I hadn't slept. I went to work in a daze, barely speaking to my colleagues. My boss, Raymond Taylor, noticed immediately. He called me into his office around noon. Talk to me, he said, shutting the door. Raymond was one of those rare good people in corporate America, genuinely interested in his employees' well-being. So I told him the whole story. I didn't expect him to have an answer, but what he said next shifted my perspective. Karen, I went through something similar with my parents when I told them I was marrying Jennifer instead of the woman they'd chosen. They threatened to disown me. For 2 years I gave them everything they asked for. I tried to earn back their approval. The weird thing? The more I bent, the more they demanded. It wasn't until I stopped trying to earn it that anything changed. And even then, our relationship will never be what it was. Some damage is permanent. How did you get through it? I asked. I surrounded myself with people who actually loved me. Not conditionally. Not transactionally. Just loved me. Your mother might come around. He might not. But that's on her, not you. That conversation planted a seed. By Thursday morning, that seed had sprouted into something that looked dangerous. By Friday, I'd watered it with fury. That Friday evening, my Aunt Rochelle, Mama's younger sister, called me. Apparently, Mama had called an emergency family meeting and told everyone that I was making choices that betrayed the family. She described Patrick as a homewrecker, and me as ungrateful and prideful. She'd even suggested that I'd gotten too comfortable in my corporate job and forgotten where I came from. By the time Aunt Rochelle finished recounting it, I felt something rise in my chest that I'd never felt before, pure crystalline anger. Karen, she's telling people that you're abandoning the family, Aunt Rochelle said, her voice full of concern. I wanted you to hear it from someone who loves you, not from gossip. She abandoned me first, I said quietly. She just did it wearing a smile. That night I made the call that would change everything. My hands actually trembled as I dialed her number. It was late, almost midnight, but I knew she'd still be awake. Mama never slept before midnight. She'd always said that nighttime was when she did her thinking, her praying, her reckoning. Karen. She sounded groggy, but also alert in that way mothers are when their children call late. Is something wrong? Is Patrick okay? The concern in her voice almost broke my resolve. Almost. No, everyone's fine. I'm calling about your retirement home, I said, keeping my voice level. Oh baby, not tonight, okay? We can talk about this after Thanksgiving when... No, Mama. We're talking about it right now. I could hear the new steel in my own voice and it surprised both of us. That $50,000? The one I was going to give you as a surprise? I'm not giving it to you anymore. Silence. Long silence. What are you talking about? I'm talking about how you made me choose between you and the person I love, and then you called a family meeting to tell everyone I'm a traitor. I'm talking about how I've spent my entire life trying to earn your approval, and nothing I do is ever enough. I'm talking about how you made me believe that my worth was dependent on how much I could sacrifice for you. The words were pouring out now and I couldn't stop them. But I'm done. Karen Louise Anderson, I don't appreciate your tone. I don't care, Mama. For once in my life, I genuinely do not care about your tone or your disapproval or your conditions. I took a breath. You told me I don't fit in with the family. Well, congratulations. I finally believe you. I don't. But that's not because of Patrick. It's because I refuse to twist myself into the shape you need me to be anymore. So what, you're just going to abandon me? Her voice cracked. After everything I did for you? And there was the thing she always came back to. The debt. The endless, unpayable debt of her sacrifice. You didn't do it for me, Mama. You did it for you. You did it so you could have someone to control. Someone who would validate your life by making your dreams come true. Well, I'm not that person anymore. I'm my own person. And I'm going to live my life on my terms. If you walk away from this family, I'm not walking away. I'm just finally stepping forward. I hung up before she could respond. And then I cried. I cried so hard I threw up. I cried because I'd just burned a bridge with the woman who gave me life. But underneath the grief, underneath the guilt, there was something else. Relief. The next morning my phone was exploding. Text messages from Gary, from Connie, from cousins I barely spoke to. The family narrative was already forming. Karen was the ungrateful one. Karen was the selfish one. Karen had been brainwashed by her boyfriend. Mama was the victim of her own daughter's cruelty. Nobody asked my side of the story. I'd blocked my mother's number by 8 a.m. By 10 a.m. I had decided to actually meet with a therapist about all of this. And by noon something even more shocking happened. Connie called me. Connie was my baby sister, 22 years old, still living at home with Mama, still under her thumb. We'd never been particularly close. When I moved out for college she was only 14, and by the time I was settled in my career, she was a stranger who occasionally texted me, "Happy birthday." "Hey," she said when I picked up. "Don't hang up, okay? I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "I'm leaving Mama's house tomorrow. I'm moving in with my friend Jessica and I'm not going back." And I'm doing it because of what you did. My heart nearly stopped. Connie, what are you talking about? I've been listening to Mama my whole life the same way you did. But watching her treat you like that, watching her get so mad because you finally stood up for yourself, it made me realize something. We're not her. We're not responsible for her happiness. And I've been suffocating. I felt tears start again, but this time they were different. Mama's going to flip out, Connie continued. She's already saying that you poisoned me against her. But I need you to know something. This is my choice. You gave me permission to make it even though you didn't mean to. You showed me that it's possible to love someone and still leave them. After we hung up, I sat with that conversation for a long time. I thought about the ripple effect of boundaries. I thought about how often we stay quiet because we're afraid of what might happen if we don't. And I realized something terrifying. Maybe my mother had been toxic to more than just me. Maybe I wasn't the only one who needed to escape. That evening, Patrick came over with flowers and Thai food from my favorite restaurant. He set everything up without being asked, and when I came out of the bathroom after a long shower, he just held me. I heard about Connie, he said into my hair. How did you? Your Aunt Rochelle called me. She wanted me to know that you weren't alone in this, and that what you did took courage. I pulled back to look at him. You spoke to my aunt? She actually called your office looking for you, and your assistant gave her my number. I think she's been trying to figure out how to support you without being disloyal to your mom. He guided me to the couch. But listen, that's not really what I wanted to talk to you about. What do you mean? I need to ask you something and I need you to answer me honestly. Are you okay? Like actually okay? Because I know what happened with your family and I know that was hard, but I also need to make sure that you're not staying in this relationship out of spite toward your mother. It was such a Patrick question. Thoughtful. Generous. The complete opposite of manipulation. No, I said immediately. I'm with you because you make me better. Because you challenge me. Because you actually see me, like the real me, not the version of me that's supposed to be something for someone else. What happened with my mother? That just clarified things. Good, he said. Because I love you, Karen. And I've loved you since that first night when we met at that conference and you tried to explain derivative markets to me at 2 a.m. He smiled. I want to build a life with you. But I need it to be real. I need you to be making that choice for you, not against her. I am, I promised. But even as I said it, I realized there was still something I needed to do. One more thing to clarify. One more truth to tell. The following Tuesday, I agreed to meet Aunt Rochelle for dinner. She'd been texting me all week and I could sense the desperation in her messages. She wanted to help bridge the gap, I think. Or maybe she just wanted to understand. We met at a small soul food restaurant near the West End, one that Mama used to take us to when we were kids. Aunt Rochelle looked older than I remembered. Tired maybe. She hugged me for a long time when I arrived and I could feel her trembling slightly. I'm not here to convince you to apologize, she said before we even sat down. I want you to know that right away. Okay, I said, sitting across from her. But I do want to tell you something about your mother that you might not know. When we were growing up, our mother, your grandmother, she was very controlling, very critical. Patricia spent her entire childhood trying to earn love that came with conditions. So when she had you kids, she just repeated the pattern. She didn't know any other way to love. I felt something shift in my chest. That doesn't make it okay, Aunt Rochelle continued. I'm not saying it does. But it explains it. And I think it explains why she reacted so badly to you setting a boundary. Because in her mind, boundary setting feels like rejection. Like you're abandoning her the same way she felt abandoned. Should I forgive her? I asked, not because I wanted to, but because I genuinely needed guidance. That's not my call to make. But I think you should understand her. And then once you understand her, You get to make a choice about whether that understanding changes anything. For me, understanding her helped me not hate her. But I also don't let her run my life anymore. There's a middle ground, Karen. You don't have to choose between being a good daughter and being a whole person. We ordered food, and over collard greens and cornbread, I finally let myself grieve. Not for my mother's approval, but for the relationship I'd always wanted with her. The one where she could just be proud of me without needing me to prove something for her. October turned into November and life continued. I didn't hear from my mother. My sister seemed genuinely happy in her new apartment. My brother called to say he was sorry for jumping on the bandwagon with the family, and we made plans to have lunch. Life was becoming clearer, simpler, better. But then something happened that I genuinely didn't see coming. My mother called the mortgage company. I found out on a Friday afternoon when the loan officer for a property I was trying to finance called my office. Apparently, there had been inquiries about my credit, and she wanted to give me a heads up before anything was officially documented. Your mother called us, the loan officer, Mrs. Washington said carefully. She claimed there were unpaid debts and questioned whether you were reliable. She didn't provide evidence, but she made enough noise that it flagged your file. My stomach dropped. How is that even legal? It's not technically. And I want you to know that we're taking you at your word here. Your credit is excellent. Your income is stable. There's nothing here that would indicate a problem. But I wanted to warn you because this might not be the only place she tries this. I hung up and immediately called Patrick. I needed to tell someone. I needed to process what this meant. My mother was trying to sabotage me financially. My mother, who I'd been planning to support, was trying to destroy my career because I'd set a boundary with her. Okay, Patrick said after I'd explained everything. Okay, this is actually good in a weird way. How is this good? She's trying to ruin me. No, she's showing you the real version of herself. She's showing you that your fear, the fear that made you give so much to her for so long, was justified. She's showing you who you're actually dealing with. And now you can move forward without guilt, because she's removed any ambiguity about whether she deserves your sacrifice. He was right. The next week, Patrick strongly suggested I talk to a lawyer. Not to sue my mother, we both agreed that was taking it too far, but to protect myself. So I called Raymond Taylor's brother-in-law who worked in family law, and I told him what my mother had done. 2 days later, a cease and desist letter was sent to my mother's house. It wasn't threatening. It was actually quite measured. But it made it very clear that if she continued to interfere with my financial, professional, or personal life, there would be legal consequences. I felt sick sending it. But I also felt something else. A strange sense of peace. I had drawn a line. I had protected myself. I was treating my mother like any toxic person in my life, not like some special case who deserved endless chances because of biology. The week after the letter was sent, my mother tried to call me from a blocked number. I didn't answer. She tried 3 times. I didn't answer any of them. And then finally there was silence. It was during this silence that I made a decision. I was going to move forward with my life. Completely. I was going to see a therapist regularly. I was going to build the healthiest relationship I could with Patrick. I was going to invest in friendships that were reciprocal. And I was going to take the $50,000 that was supposed to be for my mother's retirement home and use it for my own future. Because here's what I realized. I deserved that investment. I deserved to have someone believe in me enough to sacrifice for my dreams. By early December, something strange happened. My mother reached out. Not by calling. Not by text. But through a letter. An actual physical letter delivered to my office. I recognized her handwriting immediately and my hands shook as I opened it. Dear Karen, I don't know where to start, so I'll just start. Rochelle came to see me. She sat in my living room and told me that I was killing our relationship and that I had a choice to make. I got angry at first. I told her she didn't understand. But then she left and I sat alone and I realized something. Everything she said was true. I've spent so much of my life trying to control you because I was so afraid of losing you. I watched my mother lose her children because she was cruel and I swore I wouldn't be like that. But then I was just a different kind of controlling, a different kind of cruel. You don't owe me a retirement home. You don't owe me anything. And I was wrong for making you choose. I was wrong for trying to sabotage you. I'm not asking for forgiveness because I don't think I deserve it yet. But I am asking for a chance to know the woman you've become without expectations. Without conditions. If you want to talk, I'm here. If you don't, I understand that too. But I want you to know that I see you now. I see who you are. And I'm proud of you not because of what you've done for me, but because of who you are when you're with someone who loves you unconditionally. Love, Mama. I read that letter 4 times. Then I cried. Then I read it again. I showed it to Patrick and he read it carefully and said, "That's progress. Real progress. But you don't have to forgive her yet. You can just sit with this and see what happens." 2 weeks before Christmas, I agreed to meet my mother for coffee. Just coffee. Nothing more. We met at a neutral location. A cafe in Buckhead, nowhere near either of our territories. She looked smaller somehow, or maybe I was just seeing her differently. She ordered tea and fidgeted with the cup for a long time before she spoke. "I talked to a therapist," she said finally. "The lawyer's letter scared me enough to actually do something about my behavior. And I'm learning some things about myself that are difficult." "Like what?" I asked carefully. "Like how I've been using you kids as proof that my life meant something. Like how I've been so afraid of ending up like my mother that I became her anyway, just in different clothes." She looked at me directly. "I'm not asking you to fix this, Karen. I'm just telling you that I know it now." "What about the money?" I asked. "What you did with the mortgage company?" I was angry and scared and I handled it in a way that was inexcusable. She took a breath. "I've already called Mrs. Washington and told her the truth about my motivations. And I'm working with my therapist on why I did that." We talked for 2 hours. We didn't solve everything. We didn't suddenly become the healthy family that existed only in my fantasy. But we took a step. And for the first time it felt like a genuine step. Not me bending. Not her controlling. Just 2 people trying. When I left that cafe, I knew something had shifted. Not the past that couldn't be rewritten. But the future. The future was suddenly negotiable. 6 months after that phone call where my mother told me not to bother coming to Thanksgiving, I was sitting in a different cafe with Patrick looking at engagement rings. Life had moved forward in ways I couldn't have predicted. My mother was genuinely working on herself. Connie had enrolled in college courses and was thriving in her independence. Gary and I had actually become close again. Me. I was planning a future that felt entirely mine. I'd bought a condo with my $50,000, the one that was supposed to be for my mother's retirement. I was in therapy every Tuesday, unpacking years of conditional love and learning what unconditional love actually looked like. And I was building a life with a man who saw me completely. "So," Patrick smiled, watching me look at the rings. "This one," I said, pointing to a simple diamond set in white gold. Nothing ornate. Nothing designed to impress anyone. Just honest and real and exactly what I wanted. As Patrick slipped it on my finger, I thought about that conversation with my mother. The one where she told me I didn't fit in with the family. I realized now that fitting in had never been the goal worth pursuing. The goal had always been to be authentically myself, even if that meant standing alone for a while. My mother eventually came to my engagement party. She brought a gift. She was genuinely happy for me. And for the first time, her happiness didn't feel like something I had to earn. Felt like a bonus. The truth I learned through all of this is simple. You cannot set boundaries with people and expect them to remain unchanged. But sometimes when you have the courage to change yourself first, everyone else gets a chance to change too. Sometimes they take it. Sometimes they don't. But either way you survive. You thrive. You become the person you were always meant to be. I didn't regret canceling that $50,000 check. Because the investment I made in myself, in my freedom, my future, my peace, paid dividends that no retirement home ever could. And maybe that's the story that matters.